The world has seen many conquerors: Alexander the Great, Genghis Khan, Julius Caesar. But in the modern age, one name shines above the rest: Napoleon Bonaparte. From a small island in the Mediterranean, he rose to command nations, reshape Europe, and etch his name in history as one of the greatest conquerors the world has ever known. Humble beginnings. Napoleon was born in 1769 on Corsica, just a year after the island became French territory. His family had noble roots but little wealth. From childhood, he was ambitious, sharp, and serious. At the age of 9, he was sent to military school in France. There, mocked for his accent and short stature, he found no friends, only books. History, strategy, the lives of great generals, these became his companions. Napoleon dreamed, not of survival, but of glory. Rising through the ranks. When the French Revolution erupted in 1789, France was torn apart. The monarchy collapsed, kings and queens were executed, and enemy armies closed in. Amid this storm, Napoleon, a young artillery officer, seized his chance. At Toulon in 1793, he drove the British from the city with bold tactics. Overnight, he became a national hero. Soon, he led the army of Italy, transforming starving, ragged men into a fearless fighting force. "Soldiers," he declared, "you are hungry and naked. I will lead you to fertile plains where you will find honor and glory." He kept his word. Victory after victory followed. His men loved him because he marched beside them, shared their hardships, and promised them greatness. Even his failed campaign in Egypt could not dim his reputation. He returned to France a legend, both warrior and visionary. The Seizure of Power. By 1799, France's revolutionary government was broken and mistrusted. The people longed for order. Napoleon struck. In a daring coup, he seized control and, at just 30 years old, became first consul of France. He brought stability, reforming schools, reviving the economy, and creating the Napoleonic Code, laws that still shape nations today. But his ambition stretched beyond France. He dreamed of empire, emperor of the French. In 1804, inside Notre Dame Cathedral, Napoleon crowned himself emperor, lifting the crown from the Pope's hands and placing it on his own head. He owed his throne to no one. On the battlefield, he was a master of deception. At Austerlitz in 1805, he lured Austrian and Russian forces into a trap. As the morning fog lifted, his troops struck with devastating precision. The enemy collapsed, and Europe stood in awe. For nearly a decade, his armies marched from Spain to Poland, spreading reforms, abolishing feudal privileges, and rewarding merit over birth. By 1810, Napoleon's shadow stretched across almost all of Europe. The fall begins. In 1812, Napoleon made his greatest mistake, invading Russia. With 600,000 men, the largest army Europe had ever seen, he marched east. The Russians retreated, burning their villages, leaving nothing to eat. When Napoleon reached Moscow, the city was in flames. With no shelter and no supplies, winter closed in. Blizzards buried the roads. Soldiers burned furniture and doors just to stay warm. Horses died where they stood. Wolves circled the camps at night. Men collapsed in the snow, frozen where they fell. By the time the shattered army staggered back to France, fewer than 100,000 remained. Europe saw its chance. Britain, Prussia, Austria, and Russia united. By 1814, Napoleon was defeated and forced to abdicate. The 100 Days in Waterloo. Exiled to the island of Elba, he seemed finished. But in 1815, Napoleon escaped and landed back in France. As royal soldiers marched to arrest him, he stepped forward, opened his coat, and declared, "If you would shoot your emperor, here I am." Instead of firing, the soldiers cheered, "Vive l'Empereur." Within days, Napoleon was back on the throne. For 100 days, Europe trembled once more. But at Waterloo, fate turned against him. Heavy rain soaked the fields, turning them into mud and slowing his cannons. French drums rolled, cavalry thundered forward, and for hours the battle raged in smoke and blood. But Wellington's lines held, and when the Prussians arrived, Napoleon's army broke. In that moment, the dream of empire collapsed. Final exile and legacy. This time, there was no escape. Napoleon was sent to the remote island of St. Helena, in the South Atlantic, far from the continent he once ruled. There, in lonely exile, he dictated his memoirs, pacing the rocky shores, staring endlessly at the sea. He dreamed of past glories, of victories now gone, and of a destiny unfulfilled. On May 5, 1821, at just 51 years old, Napoleon Bonaparte died. Yet his shadow remained. He left the world a legacy of military genius, legal reforms, and the enduring image of a man who rose from obscurity to command the destiny of nations. And if you enjoyed this story, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.